Jim, you're live.
Steph, read some super chats.
Okay. I will read some super chats. Dr. Ritchie said, Jimmy, are you aware Scott Ritter got pulled off his plane to St. Petersburg, Russia on a trip to the Economic Forum? Jimmy says yes.
They took his passport away.
No.
That's what I saw.
What the flip? And the Scottish First Minister's name is Mr. White. All right, Josh Woods, thank you. Everything about civilization down to the practice of agriculture is insanely unhealthy and destructive. If you want to figure things out, you need to go deep. SS, thank you, SS. Congratulations to Mexico's first female presidente, La Señora Chamonix Huitran. SS says, we are dithering as the high-tech globalized Nazis continue putting their plans in place. People are so overly comfortable and confident. I don't know if we're overly comfortable or confident or that we're overworked. What do you think, SS? Could it be a combination? The Matrix is a documentary, Chris. Check out Dan Cohen's Substack on Israel's military being on the brink of collapse. Mike E. No person is illegal. Diversity is our strength. Not a band account. Mary Lou. Thank you, Mary Lou. At least Operation Paperclip Nazis landed U.S. men on the moon. Not so much for Ukraine Nazis coming to the U.S. after Ukraine falls. Sparky. I exist to offend. Words are not actions. Greasy N-word. Back to Jimmy.
So you remember when Dr. Fauci was asked about social distancing? He said this.
CDC is advising all Americans now to wear a cloth mask, but not the surgical mask. Save those for the healthcare officials. Why the change now? Because most of us have been walking around, going to the grocery store, not wearing the mask because that was the original recommendation.
Well, we have to make sure we don't forget that the most important thing is to keep this 6-foot physical distance from individuals.
That was the most important thing, 6-foot distance. Turns out Fauci now admitted under oath, and I'm going to show you that he just made it up. Social distancing, masking kids. Fauci said he does not know where the 6-foot social distancing came from. He also said he was unaware of studies recommending masks for kids because there weren't any. So the masking there was never a study that they could point to that said this is why we should mask. They just made it up. In fact, before COVID, Fauci would tell you don't mask.
And then to do it and then to stop doing it and then do it again.
So here at Bombshell, testimony from Dr. Anthony Fauci reveals he made up the 6-foot social distancing rule and other measures to protect Americans. Kids' learning loss and social setbacks have been well documented, with one National Institute of Health study calling the impact of mask use on students' literacy and learning very negative. Very negative. And by the way, first of all, Fauci didn't make it up. It was a coalition of corporate psychopaths that made this up. Fauci just said what he was told to say.
He only does what he's commanded to do as a carved-out wooden puppet boy.
And so, yes. And so there was big damage to kids from this made-up stuff. The impacts of social distancing caused depression, anxiety, acute stress, intrusive thoughts, said another NIH study.
Oh, it worked.
And so thanks to him, Americans and American kids missed valuable school time, and they didn't get to learn about gender and butt plugs. So you want to see, it was all made up like a square dance. It was designed for fucked up, shut-in-control freaks to feel like they had momentarily taken over the world.
Right.
Earth finally looked like the inside of their head to them.
Oh, they miss it. And those kids now are more like them. Remember, they're anxious. That's how you got to be all the time. Afraid.
That's right.
Anxious.
And just like them.
And unable to communicate.
And it was their chance to boss somebody around. Finally, after having been pushed around themselves for so long, it's not wrong when they do it. And by the way, if you're a fan of the TV 6 Feet Under, you're going to love 6 Feet Apart. Am I right? The new series that you have to put on to subtitles because you can't understand what the fuck anyone is saying behind their masks.
Wasn't it supposed to be 10 feet apart at first? And then the
then they just switched it.
Hey, you're killing me over here.
Yeah. So here it is. So this was under a testimony. Do you recall reviewing any studies or data supporting masking for children? You know, I might have.
Oh, he was busy with something else?
You're too busy. But I don't really specifically recall that I did. I might have.
What are you, Chris Cuomo?
There's been a lot of studies that have come out since the pandemic started, but specifically on this, there's been significance on the kind of like learning loss and speech and development issues that have been associated with particularly young children wearing masks while they're growing up. They can't see their teacher talk and they can't learn how to form words. Have you followed any of these studies? No.
What are you busy
No,
with?
he says. No, and I still think that that's up in the air. Ironic he says up in the air.
I spend most of my time at hearings.
So no. So the number one guy's following this less than a pothead jagoff comedian.
Less than Chris Cuomo. Chris Cuomo has figured out.
Chris Cuomo has figured it out, but he hasn't. So now Marjorie Taylor Greene asks him about this. Watch this.
You also represent the type of science where you confess that you made up the COVID rules, including
I didn't hear what you
6 feet social distancing and masking of children.
I never said I made anything up.
You admitted that you made it up. You
I
made
didn't
it up
say
as you went.
I made it up.
You want to hear what he says? I didn't say I made it up. Well, what did you say? Hold on to your, because here it comes. Watch. What did you say?
So are you saying this is fake news, Mr. Fauci?
I didn't say I made anything up.
What did you say?
I said that it is not based in science and it just appeared.
It just appeared.
Wow.
It just appeared like a rabbit out of your hat. Hey, 6 foot distancing. Kids wear masks. It just appeared. I pulled it right out of a hat.
Were you scrying? He was using his crystal ball.
He goes, I didn't say I said it just appeared.
I want to assure everyone it was pure occultism.
So it just appeared, and then you just said it.
CDC is advising all
so
Americans
it just
now to wear a
appeard,
cloth mask, but not the surgical
and then
mask.
you just repeated it.
Something
Yeah,
that was walking around,
abracadabras.
going to the grocery store, not wearing the mask because that was the original recommendation.
And then
Well, we have to make sure we don't forget that the most important thing is to keep this 6 foot physical distance from individuals.
Where did that appear from?
That's like an air mask, 6 feet distance.
Where did that? So that just appeared, and then you told someone that it was real, but it wasn't based on science. And now he says that it wasn't based on science. It just appeared. So I just started to run around telling everybody that it was real and it was based on science. And then if you disagreed with him, you were disagreeing with science. Remember, he said if you criticized him, you were criticizing science. Well, and now he's saying, well, it wasn't based on science.
The science changes and things appearing, a lot of ins and outs and what happens.
A lot of ins and outs.
A lot of ins, a lot of outs.
I don't think I'll ever get over this answer of it just appeared. It wasn't based on science, and it just appeared.
I was busy torturing puppies, so I wasn't following the story.
So here he is admitting there was never any studies, or I can't recall. And are you following those studies now? No. No. The answer is no.
Listen, I've got a puppy cooking in the oven. I've got to get out of here.
And then when he's asked about it, he says, no, what I said is they weren't based on science. They just appeared. As if that doesn't make him look like the complete criminal psychopath that he is.
Well, crazy things happen at those Diddy parties. I can't remember it all.
And Marjorie Taylor Greene dismantles him. He gets dismantled. That's your number one guy. That's your Saint Fauci, the people that Stephen Colbert and every asshole comedian in Hollywood were lionizing. That's him being dismantled by Marjorie Taylor Greene.
She's a terrible person.
Let's watch this again.
You also represent the type of science where you confess that you made up the COVID rules, including
I didn't hear what you
6 feet social distancing and masking of children.
I never said I made anything up.
You admitted that you made it up. You made
I
it
didn't
up
say
as you went.
I made it up.
So are you saying this is fake news, Mr. Fauci?
I didn't say I made anything up.
What did you say?
I said that it is not based in science and it just appeared.
But
and I said,
I gotcha.
You're a big head butch body bitch.
So he's doing the Bill Clinton. What's the definition of is?
Yeah, that's that. The classics never die.
Yeah,
Russia.
I didn't say it was made up. I said it just appeared. Got ya. He has that look on his face like he just got her.
I mean, look, he did get her. Nothing's going to happen
Nothing's going to happen to him.
All these hearings, it's very entertaining to watch his little Pinocchio nose grow, but I mean, in the end, is not going to amount to jack shit.
There's nothing's going to... Yeah, you're right.
People really are like, oh, just move on. I don't know how anyone can move on just from the masking alone.
Just from the masking alone.
Could you still see people with masks?
Still to this day.
Yeah.
Still to this day. And I hate it when I'm at a restaurant. I go to restaurants often because we don't have children. And that's one of the perks. And
I'm barren.
And a waiter or a waitress will come over and have a mask on. And I want to go, you know what? I want another... Just cut it out. I don't want to.
Still people wearing.
They're still doing that,
and they're doing it because they have to at work, or it's their own thing.
No, there'll be like one or two in the whole place. When I go to the medical offices in Pasadena, which I still do, because they all have to wear masks. You know, it's a mandate. Pasadena Health Department. And when I went for this to get this cancer off my face, every person in that office is wearing a mask. The people behind the front desk, every nurse assistant, every nurse, every doctor, every person there's got to be 25 people in that office that work there, and every one of them's wearing a mask. Still to this day.
Wow, they should get those big, like, what are those plague masks they had with the big bird beak? The top hat. That'd be pretty cool.
So there you go. I never said I made it up. What did you say? I said it wasn't based in science and it just appeared. Got ya.
Are we done here? I need to unleash sandflies onto the face of a dog.
No kidding. All right. I actually have more of this testimony. There's a doctor.
Keep it going, yeah.
There's a doctor who's actually in Congress, and he's going to confront Fauci, and we're going to do that. Do we have to jump?
No, we don't. Well, yeah, you decide. We don't have to. It's up to you.
Over to Steph. Read a super chat, and I'll get that ready.
Okay, you got it. All right, here we go. Anthropologists and U.S. Census list Arabs country north of Sahara in Africa and most Hispanics as white. You got that right, Polly. You should have Sadie Onward on the show, degenerate. When I was a kid in the 1960s, Arabs, Persians, Indians, etc. were considered white in Atlanta. They used the white restroom and water fountain, and no one batted an eye. Now they're people of color. Sparky, I'm Mexican on my birth certificate, white. Hey, Frank Rizzo, troll toll, thank you. Hopefully sooner than later, watch Neil all the time, but this was the best of both sides of the pond. The amazing Blumpkin. Back to Jim Jam.
So here, this guy's a doctor, and he's in Congress, and he gets to grill Dr. Fauci about, well, let's watch, and this is fun.
Why would I be criticized by a bureaucrat for doing my very best as a healthcare? This is a rhetorical question. But why? Why would the government, who has never treated a patient for COVID, you can read all the things you want, but you're not there. You're not seeing patients. You're not watching.
So this guy actually treated people for COVID, and he's grilling Fauci, who's never treated anyone for COVID. Fauci's not a clinician. He doesn't treat people. And he's saying, why do you get off criticizing me? I'm actually treating people. And you, the government, here we are.
People die, intubating patients right there with that disease in your face, watching it happen, watching the development of this disease and actually learning from it. But I'm being told by bureaucrats.
And just so you know, Dr. Fauci lied about everything. He lied about the origin of the virus. He lied about funding the origin of the virus, which is the COVID Wuhan lab. He lied about masks twice. He lied about herd immunity. He lied about natural immunity. He lied about transmission, contraction. He lied about vaccines getting us out of the pandemic. There wasn't a thing he didn't lie about. Just so you know. You remember that movie, The Dallas Buyers Club? The bad guy in that movie is Dr. Fauci. People forget that. That movie, which, what's his name, won the Academy Award for that?
Matthew McConaughey.
Matthew McConaughey.
It was debunked. I remember when it came out, and it was a thorough debunking.
He won the Academy Award for that. The bad guy in that movie, Dr. Fauci. People forget that. Okay, here we go. Let's enjoy this.
What's right and wrong. And what's funny is everything I was censored on, I was proven to be right.
He was censored.
Pretty crazy, isn't it? You said in an interview that you gave as part of an audiobook written by Michael Spector.
No, listen to this. So he's got a piece of audio that Fauci did when he's being interviewed for a book. And listen to this garbage. And it's very cathartic to have it thrown right back in Fauci's face. Here it is.
That you believed an institutional should make it hard for people to live their lives so they'd feel pressured to get vaccinated. Could we run the audio clip on that, please?
You think can be done about it? I have to say that I don't see a big solution other than some sort of mandatory vaccination. I know federal officials don't like to use that term.
Once people feel empowered and protected legally, you are going to have schools, universities, and colleges are going to say, you want to come to this college, buddy? You're going to get vaccinated. Lady, you're going to get vaccinated.
Yeah.
Big corporations like Amazon and Facebook and all of those others are going to say, you want to work for us? You get vaccinated. And it's been proven that when you make it difficult for people in their lives, they lose their ideological bullshit and they get vaccinated.
So he's saying that we need to give big corporations legal protection so they can make it life hard for people unless they get vaccinated, and then they lose their ideological bullshit. Questioning science and being right about it, Fauci was referring to as ideological bullshit. Fauci was the one, again, who lied about everything. And if you questioned it, he called you a conspiracy theorist and full of ideological bullshit. Well, here's what this doctor says.
Thank you. Are all objections to COVID vaccinations ideological bullshit, Dr. Fauci?
No, they're not, and that's not what I was referring to.
Well,
let me finish.
I meant the Hippocratic Oath is bullshit.
No, that's not what I was referring to, even though that's exactly what I was referring to, and you just played the audio of me saying that's exactly what I was saying. Let me finish. I meant that, no, of course, ideological bullshit is something else, and not the thing that it obviously means what I said, and...
Ideological bullshit, Dr. Fauci?
No, they're not, and that's not what I was referring to.
Well, in reference to making it hard for people to get education, traveling, working, I'd say it very much was in context. And I take great offense to this. Miss Allison Williams testified before this committee about losing her job because she sought an exemption for ESPN's vaccine mandate, which came from recommendations from bureaucrats like yourself. She and her husband were actively working with a fertility expert, a physician, on how to get pregnant, and agreed with the premise that she was young, healthy, wanted to get pregnant, and shouldn't get the vaccination for medical purposes. But she was fired because you made it hard, just like you said in your statement, because you didn't want to make sure that the ideological bullshit got in the way of her working, of living her life, of making a medical decision with her healthcare professional. I think America should take great offense to this. That's exactly what you meant when you said making it hard for people to live without getting a vaccination. You affected people's ability to work, travel, be educated, to actually flourish in American society, to self-determine, as we're all given God-given rights. Shame on you. Dr. Fauci, you've become Dr. Fear. Americans do not hate science. I don't hate science. The American people hate having their freedoms taken from them. You inspired and created fear through mass mandates, school closures, vaccine mandates that have destroyed the American people's trust in our public health institutions. This fear you created will continue to have ripple effects over generations to come. You have already seen its effects in education, in the economy, and everything else. Quite frankly, you said, if you disagree with me, you disagree with science. Dr. Fauci, I disagree with you because I disagree with fear. And with that, I yield.
And that is the face of a psychopathic, sociopathic liar. That's what Dr. Fauci is. He's a psychopath, and he's a sociopathic liar.
I'm a public servant.
Yeah. And so now here is another congressman who's just going to read him a litany of all the lies and crimes. He doesn't even care what Fauci has to say. This is what I love.
I'm going to go through a list of COVID mitigation measures that you supported over the course of the pandemic and ask you to give me a yes or no as to whether you believe these measures were justified. Business closures.
Early on, when 5,000 people were dying a day, yes.
Church closures.
Same thing.
School closures.
So he's standing by the locking down. Now, I'll show you a video in a minute where he denies recommending locking down the country.
Yes, I would do it again.
Now he would do it again. Yeah, I would do it again. Even though now it's been proven that lockdowns did nothing except actually negative stuff. He still stands by it. That's a true sociopath, ladies and gentlemen.
Again, the
stay-at-home orders.
These were important when we were trying to stop the tsunami of deaths that were occurring early on.
Tsunami of
How long you kept them going is debatable.
mask mandates for adults, mask mandates for children, mask mandates for children under 5.
And going back to what I said before, all of that is in the context of, at the time, 4
Mask
to
mandates for children
5,000
under
people a
5.
day
There's
were
scientific
dying.
evidence for that.
Excuse me?
Mask mandates for children under 5. There's scientific evidence supporting that.
There was no study that did
No, there was never a study. The mask mandates were never based on a study. They never pointed to a study and said, this is why children should be masked. Here's a study. This is why kids on schools should be masked. They could never point to a study because it wasn't one that existed. They just made it up. And it was all to scare the shit out of everyone so they could control you.
on kids before. You couldn't do the study. You had to respond to an epidemic that was killing 4,000 to 5,000 Americans per
Vaccine
day.
mandates for employees, vaccine mandates for students, vaccine mandates for military.
Vaccines save lives. It is very, very clear that vaccines have saved hundreds of thousands of Americans.
COVID
and
vaccines?
I'm not debating. We're talking about COVID-19. Did or do the COVID-19 vaccine stop anyone from getting COVID?
I answered that question to the chairman. Early on, it became clear that
they did.
No, actually, no. In the beginning, it clearly prevented infection in a certain percentage of people.
Certain
but
percentage.
the durability.
What percentage would that be? 1%? 2%? It clearly prevented transmission in a percentage of people. He doesn't tell you the percentage. Why? Because he is a criminal and a sociopathic liar. That's why. And because Pfizer admitted, under questioning at the European Parliament, that they never even tested their vaccine to see if it stopped transmission. They didn't even test. So how would he know?
Ability to prevent infection was not long. It was measured in months.
And they didn't stop you from spreading it either.
Early on, it did if it prevented infection. But what became clear that it did not prevent transmission when the ability to prevent infection waned.
So here he is lying about, just blatantly lying about recommending lockdowns. Now he's standing by him again because he's being questioned by Congress. Now
schools, if you had to do it all over again.
Well, you know, again, it's first of all, I didn't recommend locking anything down. You're asking me questions. You're talking about the CDC is the public health agency. I recommended to the president that we shut the country down. And that was a very difficult decision because I knew it would have serious economic consequences.
No, I just said turn out the lights and everyone can run around.
Yeah.
As long as they have a
Down
mask.
schools, if you had to do it all over again.
First of all, you're asking
Well,
me.
you know, again, it's first of all, I didn't recommend locking anything down.
Okay. That's just a blatant sociopathic
Play the
liar.
clip of him. They should play the clip of him first before they ask him the question.
Exactly.
They should,
Why
yes.
Don't,
Don't
they?
ask the
They
question.
don't have the technology?
We do what they did with Chris. We got Chris Cuomo with it, right?
Yeah. Let's watch those. Watch this. Orf put this together.
Do you regret particularly the last one, the shutdown, the sweeping shutdown that some said made things worse?
No, I don't, Neil. And in fact, I think we need to make sure that your listeners understand I didn't shut down anything. I recommended to the president that we shut the country down. And the only way to do that is by draconian means of essentially shutting down a country. We know that we can do that if we shut down.
Well, I think one of the things you really need to do, to the extent that you can shut down temporarily the country, I think is important.
Well, if I knew at the time that shutting down would have such a dramatic effect on controlling the spread, obviously we would have shut down earlier. There are those who say you shut down you destructive things by disrupting the economy. And others say, well, if you save so many infections by shutting down, why didn't you shut down 2 weeks earlier?
But I don't regret saying that the only way we could have really stopped the explosion of infection was by essentially I want to say shutting down, I mean essentially having the physical separation and the kinds of recommendations that we've made.
You've been a big fan of Cuomo and the shutdown in New York. You've lauded New York for their policy. New York had the highest death rate in the world. How could we possibly be jumping up and down and saying, oh, Governor Cuomo did a great job? He had the worst death rate in the world.
No, you misconstrued that, Senator.
Oh no, that's from that. That's where that's from. Okay, so there, just another taste of Fauci just being a sociopathic liar, and that's all the video I could grab from today's testimony.
I even forgot about him. I'm just thinking about how they got Trump for showing the wrong thing of paying that whore.
Yeah.
That's what outrages me, Jimmy. Not my kids that can't talk and they're
that's right
devolved.
my other kid,
gene therapy.
My other kid who committed suicide because of the lockdowns, the isolation, the increased anxiety.
Yeah, no,
not because of my kids who started cutting.
What's done is done. But this thing that Trump did.
Yeah. Oh, this thing Trump did.
Stop to it.
Okay. Let's go. Should we go over to Steph?
If I were Rabbi Shmuley and diddle-diddle-diddle-digga-digga-diddle-diddle-dum, all day long I'd diddle little bums. If I were a Shmuley man, I'd peddle all my dildos, dreidel dildos, selling dildos with my daughter and her mum. If I were a Jewish Shmuley man, I'd be digging with a dildo in my bum. I'd wear a grotesque nose and go grab some goyim right on the nipple with a pinch. A Shabbos lap dance brace for the youngest mensch.
At this time, more than any other time, you know, revolution is necessary. It is necessary. Not only based on what has happened with the MOVE organization, you know, the babies that have been murdered, you know, MOVE adults that have been murdered, bombs being dropped on us, but past that to what is happening with all black people, so-called minority people, you know, money poor people. You know, this government, as has been said earlier, has waged war on us. But you know, something about us, particularly here in America, we don't really understand that. You know, we don't really know what war is. You know, for black people, for poor people, that people see as good, that they wasn't forced to do, that they didn't do to try to keep black people appeased, and calm down so that black people wouldn't riot. A prison situation is a crystallized example of that. You can make phone calls in prison. They have movies in prison. But they don't have those things because they just want to be nice to prisoners. They have those things because they know damn well if they don't have, people being able to contact their family, if they don't have, facilities for people to sit there and watch movies, people are going to be frustrated, upset, and they're going to direct that frustration at them prison administrators. And they're going to have riots on their hands. They're going to have people in them prisons turning them prisons out. That's why they have movies. That's why they have access to phones the way they do. And a stop to it when we don't like it, or encouraging it when it's something that's in our interest. We have to call the shots. The people have to take the reins of this system and start dictating, what we need, what needs to be done. And taking the initiative to do it ourselves. We can't rely on this system. Don't people see what's happening? Every single confrontation that MOVE people have been involved in, every single issue, oppression, economic issues, every single issue facing our people, is something that can be dealt with very, very simply. All people got to do is make their wishes known. All people have to do is stand up and say, listen, we're not accepting that. Unity is the key. Unity is the key to revolution. Revolution ain't nothing to be afraid of. It ain't nothing to shy away from. Revolution, contrary to what officials, this system and those backing the officials running this system, want people to believe that revolution means violence, means blood in the street. I'm saying it can get to that point, but it don't have to be violent. When people come together and take a strong stand on an issue, this government don't have no choice but to listen. Where you think they get their authority from? They don't have no power, but they do have authority to do certain things. Where do you think they get it from? They get it from us, from the people. They get it from us accepting the things that they do to be done to stop it. Then you have some people who want to then turn around and say, yeah, well, it's the best we have, and want to make excuses. The time for excuses is over. It's over. Every man, woman, and child has to be involved in this revolution. Not only has to be, but is, whether you want to be or not. Our babies gave their lives for this revolution on May 13th. Men, women, and children were murdered. And not just MOVE babies. What about all of the young men, women, children 8, 9 years old shot down on the street by cops, by drug pushers? Where do you think that mentality comes from? It comes from this system, from the mentality of this system of getting over, making a quick buck, I'm saying that's where that needs to be done to stop it. Then, what I want people to really, really understand is that it's past time. It is past time for poor people, black people, to realize that this system has failed you. It has failed you. You can't get nothing from it. And what people got to do is withdraw our support from it and start doing for ourselves. That's what we got to do. How long are people going to sit back and beg, this government to do what's right when for hundreds of years, all you've gotten is a slap in the face. All you've gotten is this government kicking your ass. That's all. That's all black people have ever gotten from this government.
Hey, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there for more AM Joy and the rest of MSNBC. And click on any of the videos right here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. And you can get more videos from MSNBC for free every day with our newsletters. Just visit